stop explaining, and people expose themselves faster than you think once your silence stops doing their work. Most of your stress was never about being misunderstood. It was about being trained to overjustify everything. You answered every look, every tone, every delay, and still ended up feeling disrespected and drained. Because explanation does not calm manipulative people, it teaches them exactly where your guilt lives. That is the pain you know too well, feeling cornered unless you prove your intentions immediately. Good, because once you stop explaining yourself to everyone, your whole social world starts telling on itself. Here is your first weapon. When pressured, say, "That's my decision," and let the room breathe. People who respected you will adjust, but people using you will suddenly sound offended, colder, or confused. That reaction matters because your endless explanation was never creating peace, it was funding other people's comfort. You thought you were being mature, but you were often performing emotional labor for entitled people. At work, they interrupt you, question your idea, then expect you to defend every detail politely. At family dinners, one relative makes a backhanded comment and waits for your careful response. Over text, someone sends a cold message and your body instantly starts building a defense statement. You call that being responsible, but your nervous system calls it living under constant low-grade pressure. The hidden shift starts the second you stop proving yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. They lose easy access to your fear, and fear was doing half the relationship management. Here is the crazy part. Many people do not want clarity. They want leverage over your reactions. Explanations give them leverage because every extra sentence reveals what still controls you inside. Your guilt. Your fear of conflict. Your need to seem fair. Your panic about being seen as rude, selfish, difficult, or suddenly different by everybody watching. Manipulators love those fears because they turn your mouth into a faucet you cannot shut. And once you keep talking, they stop listening and start collecting ammunition for the next round. That is why certain conversations leave you exhausted even when you sounded calm the whole time. You were not communicating. You were bleeding information to somebody studying your pressure points carefully. So when you stop explaining, the first thing that happens is silence gets louder. Not peaceful silence, but revealing silence that shows who needed your overfunctioning to feel comfortable around you. A healthy person can hear your boundary without demanding a courtroom speech behind it. An unhealthy person treats your boundary like a personal attack because access just became more expensive. That expense is what they hate. Not your tone, not your wording, not your timing. Here is another weapon. Say, "I already answered," and do not decorate it with apology. Short lines feel powerful because they protect your energy instead of offering it up for inspection. And the moment you use them, weak people start revealing exactly what they were attached to. Some get colder. Some get sweeter. Some act wounded. Some suddenly become philosophical about respect, loyalty, and how people change these days. Listen carefully because those reactions are confessions wearing nicer clothes than open hostility ever could. When you stop explaining, controlling people lose their favorite tool, your need to restore comfort immediately. That need made you predictable. Predictable people are easy to pressure because their guilt can be scheduled like a daily habit. So once predictability disappears, others start testing what still works on you. They repeat the accusation. They go quiet. They act disappointed. They bring up old favors. They mention your tone instead of their behavior and hope you chase the distraction. Do not chase it. Say, "We see it differently," and let them carry their own frustration for once. That sentence matters because it ends the fantasy that every disagreement must become your emotional assignment. Most people never realize how much self-respect they lose through excessive explanation. Every time you explain a clear boundary to someone already ignoring your clarity, you leave yourself alone. You leave your instinct alone. You leave your anger alone. You leave your dignity standing outside the conversation while you beg to sound reasonable. That is why stopping the explanation feels scary at first, because fear mistakes self-protection for danger. You were trained to believe tension means you did something wrong and must repair it quickly. But tension often means somebody else lost easy control and wants you back in position. That is not your emergency. At work, stop turning every choice into a presentation just because someone raised an eyebrow. Say, "This is the direction," and let competence speak louder than your nervous smile. In friendships, stop explaining why you were busy, tired, protective, or less available than before. The right people ask how you are, not why you failed their unspoken expectations again. With family, stop defending every personal decision like you owe the table a vote. Say, that works for me, and let their discomfort stop being your unpaid job. In dating, stop clarifying every limit to people who only respect boundaries after distance appears. If they need a full speech to honor a simple no, the no matters more. Here's the wild part nobody says clearly enough. Explanation can become a people-pleasing addiction. It gives temporary relief because it feels like action, fairness, and maturity all at once. But underneath, it is often fear trying to buy safety with words. And safety bought that way never lasts, because manipulative people charge interest on your emotional labor. They want more next time. More detail. More reassurance. More guilt. More proof that your center still bends around their reactions instead of your own judgment. That is why the second shift after you stop explaining is this. Your energy comes back. Not all at once, but enough to notice. You stop rehearsing arguments in the shower. You stop rereading texts like your freedom depends on one better sentence. You stop building perfect replies for people determined to stay committed to the wrong version of you. And then something strange happens. The people who once looked powerful start looking repetitive, needy, and painfully transparent around you. Because their power was never real authority. It was your over-cooperation meeting their insecurity halfway. Once you stop meeting them there, they have to reveal what they actually are. Some reveal entitlement. Some reveal jealousy. Some reveal hidden resentment that only stayed hidden while you stayed excessively accommodating to everyone. That is why stopping explanation feels like turning on a harsh light in a messy room. Nothing new was created. You just see the dust now. Here's another practical move when someone demands justification. Slow your body before your mouth. Pause. Hold eye contact. Keep your face neutral. Do not rush to fill the silence just because silence suddenly feels loaded and uncomfortable. Loaded silence is useful because it exposes who wanted understanding and who wanted immediate compliance instead. People who wanted understanding can survive a pause without punishing you for breathing. People who wanted compliance treat your pause like betrayal because speed used to serve them. That difference will save you years if you start noticing it early. Another thing that happens when you stop explaining yourself is that fake concern loses traction fast. You know the type. They ask if you are okay, but their tone sounds more pleased than worried. They question your decision, your distance, your standards, or your confidence, and call it care. Before, you would explain everything to prove you are still reasonable and kind. Now say, I'm good, and watch how quickly concern turns sharper around the edges. That sharpness is not love. It is control losing a softer doorway into your mind. Here is a line worth keeping ready. I'm not discussing that, especially when they keep circling. That sentence protects you because not every question deserves your vulnerability, history, or personal reasoning. Some questions are not seeking truth. They are fishing for openings. They want to know what still hurts, what still scares you, what still makes you defensive. Because defensive people are easier to move, easier to guilt, and easier to guide off-center. So stop giving full access to everyone who asks with the right tone. Access should be earned, especially access to your motives, especially access to your insecurities, especially access to the part of you that still wants to be seen as good. That part is beautiful, but it becomes dangerous when strangers learn how to use it. Another shift happens in your relationships with people who always needed you slightly unsure of yourself. Once you stop explaining, they can no longer control the frame of every interaction. They cannot drag you into side arguments about tone, timing, or whether you meant well enough. They cannot keep you busy proving innocence while their behavior keeps slipping by unnoticed. That is why some people suddenly call you cold after one clean boundary. They are not describing your behavior. They are mourning the loss of easy access to your emotional labor. There's a difference. And learning that difference changes everything about how you move through conflict now. When somebody says you changed, do not panic and start narrating your growth to them. Say, I adjusted, because that is usually the truth beneath all their dramatic wording. You adjusted to disrespect. You adjusted to manipulation. You adjusted to being treated like customer service for everyone else's moods and expectations. That adjustment is not selfish. It is overdue. Most people respect distance before they respect explanation, and that should tell you enough. Because respect that appears only after your silence was never respect for your words. It was fear of losing access. And access is what explaining used to keep cheap. The old version of you worked overtime to make other people comfortable in your presence. You softened truths. You edited reactions. You offered context nobody earned. You apologized for needing space, rest, privacy standards, or simple time to think about anything. That version of you probably looked easy to love from far away. But inside, it felt like self-abandonment, wearing manners and a polite smile every day. Stopping explanation breaks that pattern because now your loyalty starts returning to the right place. To your own signal. To your own timing. To the first tight feeling in your chest when something is clearly off. That feeling matters more than the flawless paragraph you were about to send. Your body usually knows the truth before your people-pleasing brain starts building better excuses for others. Trust that faster. You do not need a perfect case every time somebody makes you feel cornered, smaller, or strangely guilty. You need a pattern. And patterns become obvious when you stop burying them under your own over-explaining. Here is something powerful you will notice quickly. Not everybody deserves the full story anymore. Some people only listen so they can debate, minimize, twist, or retell it later. Some only want enough detail to decide whether your boundary can still be negotiated. Some want to hear your reasoning because it helps them locate the pressure point. So give less. Give less detail. Give less panic. Give less material to people who keep mishandling your honesty like a toy. A short answer is not rude when the long answer keeps getting weaponized against you. Say, that's not changing, when somebody keeps circling a decision you already made. Say, you heard me, when they pretend confusion just to drag you back into explanation. Say, that doesn't work for me, when guilt shows up dressed like fairness or concern. Say, I'm leaving it there, when the conversation is clearly becoming a trap with your name. These lines matter because protection should sound clean, not like another exhausted TED Talk nobody respects. And sometimes the strongest sentence is no sentence at all. Just a neutral face. A slower reply. A message left unanswered for a while. An invitation declined without a paragraph about your emotional weather and inner philosophy. Nonverbal boundaries hit hard because they deny people the performance they were expecting from you. When you stop explaining, they have to face the boundary itself instead of your fear around it. That is where truth enters the room. The coworker who liked your availability suddenly acts offended by your efficiency. The friend who called you family now sounds distant when you stop doing all the reaching. The relative who kept judging you becomes extra emotional once you stop trying to be understood. The partner who loved your softness gets strangely irritated when softness stops meaning unlimited access. Different people. Same weakness. They like the version of you that stayed busy managing their feelings before your own. Once that version retires, their reactions show you the real contract they were hoping to keep. It was not mutual respect. It was your self-erasure at a discount. Here is the deeper reframe. Stopping explanation does not make you less loving. It makes your love more expensive, more accurate, and much harder for weak people to exploit. That is a good thing. Warmth without boundaries becomes free labor for the emotionally entitled. Clarity without explanation becomes a filter, and filters protect your peace better than charm ever will. The people meant for your life do not need your constant defense to treat you decently. They listen once. They ask directly. They respect timing. They do not turn every limit into a referendum on your character and goodness. That should free you. Because if somebody only respects you after a long emotional essay, they respect exhaustion, not you. And if they still do not respect you after the essay was never the solution. It was the leash. Here's one more crazy truth. Your over-explaining often kept low-quality relationships artificially alive for years. You kept translating yourself into acceptable language for people invested in misunderstanding your original language. You kept bridging distance that should have been allowed to widen naturally a long time ago. You kept reviving dead dynamics with paragraphs, context, and emotional CPR nobody thanked you for. Then you wondered why the connection still felt lonely. Because a connection built on explanation is still one-sided, even when it sounds emotionally intelligent. Real connection can handle your plain no, your plain yes, and your plain silence. It does not need a performance. It does not need a defense attorney. It does not need your nervous system working overtime to keep simple things from becoming dramatic. So if stopping explanation makes someone pull away, let them. Anyone attached to your constant justification was attached to access, not true understanding. Anyone angered by your plain clarity was benefiting from your old confusion more than your presence. Anyone calling you rude for having fewer words probably misses the version of you that overpaid. Let them miss that version. She was tired. He was tired. That version kept trying to earn basic respect from people who only valued easy entry. You do not owe that version more suffering just because others like the discount. From here, move differently. Pause before answering. Speak once. Do not rush to rescue every misunderstanding that follows a clean boundary. Let silence do some of the work explanation used to do badly. Let patterns become visible without your paragraphs fogging the whole situation up again. And when the old urge rises, because it will, ask one hard question first. Am I explaining for clarity, or am I explaining because someone's discomfort is making me abandon myself? That question will save you faster than any perfect reply ever could. This week, stop explaining one clear decision and watch who starts revealing their real contract with you. Tell me which line you used, subscribe if you want more protection, and stay hard to pressure.